Since the Legends Football League was formed in 2009, only 3 teams have brought home the Legends Cup. The Los Angeles Temptation, the Chicago Bliss, and the Seattle Mist. These are their stories. This is LFL Dynasties. Before we can talk about the LFL's first dominant team, we first have to go back. Way back to 2004. In 2004, Mitch Mortaza, this guy, decided to stage a football game between 2 teams consisting of bikini models, Playboy playmates, and, well, the sexiest woman he could find. This would become known as the Lingerie Bowl and would air on pay-per-view opposite the Super Bowl halftime show. These events would happen sporadically over the next 5 years. The original incarnation of the LA Temptation debuted at Lingerie Bowl 2 in 2005. Now, any resemblance to the Temptation of later years is purely coincidental, but they did take home their first championship that day. The Temptation would return to action for Lingerie Bowl 3 in 2006. However, this time they would come up a little bit short, thanks to some outside interference.
Opportunity to bring in the fridge, and there he is! William, the refrigerator Perry.
Go for the balls, ladies. Go for the balls.
Here goes the fridge. Touchdown.
Yes, that happened. This would be the last time that this incarnation of the Temptation would compete, as the Lingerie Bowl would be canceled in 2007 and 2008. But the Temptation Nation would rise again in 2009. Only this time, they would be part of something much, much bigger. After 3 years of fits and starts, Mitch Mortaza turned the Lingerie Bowl into a full-fledged league beginning with the 2009-2010 season. This was a massive undertaking, launching with 10 teams across the United States in its first season. The Lingerie, later to be known as Legends Football League, would go on to be the most successful attempt at the single-entity sports ownership model since the Major Indoor Lacrosse League in the 80s and 90s. In the ensuing decade, the league would face a litany of controversies, but one thing couldn't be denied. The LFL, in its many forms, has been the most entertaining sports spectacle in America. Joining the league in year 1, the Temptation would undergo a few changes. The uniform colors and logo would go from baby blue to black and silver, adapting the pirate image of the NFL's Raiders. They also had to revamp their entire roster since there were no carryovers from the pay-per-view era. During the first series of tryouts, a college soccer goaltender would challenge for the quarterback position. She would not make the cut. Not that we would ever hear from her again or anything. In spite of having to start from scratch, Coach Dave Bizub managed to assemble a formidable squad that would be among the league's elite from the start. This included quarterback Allie Eastlake, Stephanie Pasick, Natalie Yonke, Michel Jacot, and a linebacker who would go on to be the face of the franchise for years to come, 2014 LFL Hall of Famer Monique Gaxiola. The Los Angeles Temptation made their LFL debut on September 19, 2009 in a hard-fought come-from-behind win in Denver. This win would set the tone for LA's season. Sadly, this game would also set the tone for the Denver Dream, as they would go winless for the balance of the decade. The Temptation went 3-1 in the 09-10 season, going unbeaten at home. Their only loss came at the hands of the Dallas Desire, who tied LA for first place in the Western Conference. By virtue of a tiebreaker win over Seattle, the Temptation would make the playoffs.
Dallas better be ready for us, baby.
Yeah, you're next, Dallas. Sorry.
In the Western Final, the Temptation avenged their early season loss with a 20-14 win over the Desire. The win sent the Temptation to Lingerie Bowl 7.
Good evening. Welcome to Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Miami, Florida for tonight's LFL Championship game.
2 nights later, Bizub's Temptation faced Keith Hack's undefeated Chicago Bliss. The turning point came late in the first half, with the Bliss up by a point and inside LA's 5-yard line. The Temptation defense mounted a goal line stand, stopping Chicago dead in their tracks, sending them to the break empty-handed. This gave the Temptation new life, and they came out of the break firing on all cylinders. Meanwhile, the Bliss wouldn't score again for the remainder of the game. The Bliss would be back, but that story is for a future Dynasties episode.
You gotta have a play that takes less than 2 seconds. She'll fade back, lost the fumble, and that's it. LA has won the championship. Congratulations to LA. They win the championship. They are Lingerie Bowl 7 champions, 27-14 over Chicago.
With that, the Los Angeles Temptation became the first LFL champions. In spite of this success, there would be big changes coming. Hey, remember that college soccer goalie they cut at open tryouts? Well, the departure of Allie Eastlake opened the door for her to get a second chance. Let's see how that worked out.
Actually, what a lot of fans don't even realize is that Ashley did not make her first tryout. She tried out in Los Angeles, didn't get picked up, went to San Diego when we had a team in San Diego, tried out there, and that's where people took notice. And then what happened from there? How did you get to LA from that point?
Well, actually, you were the one that navigated me from the parking lot in San Diego, and there's still a lot of rumors about the coaches, too. Won't take blame for not calling me back right away, but maybe they just lost my number or forgot about me at the end of the day, but I wasn't getting no phone calls back.
The arrival of Ashley Salerno not only sent a message that the LA Temptation were not going to rest on their laurels, it also marked a change from the bikini models of the pay-per-view era to athletes who could credibly play football in the modern era. Nicknamed after Kenny Stabler with a game modeled after Steve Young, number 8 would revolutionize the quarterback position in the LFL for many years to come. As skilled as she was on the offensive side of the ball, Salerno, at least at this stage of her career, was equally dominant on defense. Hits like these would become part of LFL lore and only add to Salerno's legacy. But Salerno wasn't the only high-profile addition the Temptation made. 2010 saw the arrival of defensive powerhouse Ogum Chichinju, who would be a beast on the defensive side of the ball for years to come in LA. But the biggest addition came in the form of a 5'10", 180-pound lineman and fullback named Zephora Chase. Before Savannah Wood, Chase may very well have been the most powerful physical specimen in LFL history. Los Angeles would begin the defense of their title in Seattle in the league's debut on MTV. Making her debut, Ashley Salerno threw 2 touchdown passes, scoring 3 more on the ground in a dominating performance that put the entire LFL on notice. This set the tone for the remainder of the season, where they would go 4-0. After Seattle, the Temptation would add wins over Dallas, San Diego, and an overtime win over Chicago to complete the perfect season. In the 2011 Western Final, Bizup's Temptation once again faced Keith Hack's Chicago Bliss in a rematch of Lingerie Bowl 7. Led by league MVP Heather Furr, Chicago would once again fall short, sending the Temptation Nation to Vegas for Lingerie Bowl 8. At Lingerie Bowl 8, the Temptation were not only chasing a second straight championship, but also a perfect 6-0 season, the first in league history. But standing in the way was another unbeaten team, the Eastern champion Philadelphia Passion. A team that boasted the league's Offensive Player of the Year and Coach of the Year. Things got off to a rocky start for LA with this rather unfortunate sideline interview.
Monique, tell us, how has that been?
It's been quite a ride for me, but you know what? I come back year in and year out, injuries or not, I'm still here to play. And I think
Go, girl!
This set the tone because nothing would come easy for the Temptation all night.
Just 3 months of training, and Salerno very slow to get up, and she's hurt.
While the Temptation were having difficulty stopping Mary Rose Roach, the Passion had no answers for Zephora Chase.
Handoff comes along the left side, and she is touchdown. She got in.
Trailing by 6 with 20 seconds left in the half, Salerno unleashed a bomb to Melissa Margulies, sending LA into the break all tied up. In the second half, the Passion struck right back with yet another huge play from Mary Rose Roach, putting them ahead again. But on the ensuing drive, the Temptation drove the length of the field to tie it up once more.
Walker in motion. Give goes to Zafora. Chase, and Zafora chases in for the touchdown.
On the extra point attempt, Salerno ran it in, giving LA a lead that they would never relinquish. In the dying minutes, the Temptation defense came up huge, preserving LA's second straight championship and a perfect 6-0 season.
Salerno just controlled the game, goes into the victory celebration now, and the Los Angeles Temptation have won back-to-back LFL titles. The clock winds down, but that's academic because it has been all LA here in this second half. The big key, they got that extra point.
While the Temptations' dynasty wasn't over just yet, the 2010-2011 season was easily their masterpiece. LA's 6-0 record would become the gold standard by which all future LFL champions would be measured. But the offseason would bring even more changes.
Good morning, beautiful morning in Southern California. Temptation are here.
As the Temptation prepared to chase an LFL three-peat, the league was going through huge changes. The first big change was an ambitious expansion that saw 5 new teams while losing 2. This brought the LFL to 12 teams overall, with 6 teams in each division. This included an expansion into Canada, beginning by playing the all-fantasy game in Hamilton, Ontario. This was done to build interest in Canada's first LFL team, the Toronto Triumph. But Mortaza wasn't done yet. He also announced the formation of LFL Australia that would begin play in 2013. As for the Temptation, they were on top of the world, but the off-season saw the departure of Coach Dave Bishop to the broadcast booth. He was momentarily replaced by Chris Salerno, Ashley's dad. The Temptation would struggle early in the 2011-2012 season. This included a tough loss to the expansion Las Vegas Sin. This snapped an 11-game win streak dating back to 2009. Meanwhile, Dave Bishop realized that life in the booth just wasn't for him and returned to the Temptation mid-season, where they were able to settle down and finish strong. Ultimately, they would finish 3-1, good enough for second place in the Western Conference and a chance to defend their title in the playoffs. In spite of a less-than-perfect season, LA had a lot of great individual performances in 2011-2012. Ogum Chichindu built on a solid rookie campaign the year before, running away with the LFL's Most Improved Player award. Amber Reed made fans forget about the departing Zafora Chase with a breakout season. Melissa Margulies continued to shred defenses as one of the league's top receivers. And with more running options to work with than ever before, Ashley Salerno had far less carries but continued to excel as the LFL's best passer. In the 2012 Western Final, the Temptation faced the Las Vegas Sin, the only team to beat them in 2 years. What was expected to be a classic quickly turned into a clinic as the Temptation dominated the upstarts en route to a return trip to Vegas and Lingerie Bowl 9.
It's an event that happens only once a year. But these athletes are chasing something that may only happen once in a lifetime. On football's biggest stage, an epic battle awaits. This is what they've been searching for, chasing after. Their defining moment, their championship moment. The battle is set. The moment is now.
At Lingerie Bowl 9, not only was the venue the same as Lingerie Bowl 8, but so were the combatants. Once again, the Temptation faced the Philadelphia Passion, who won the East with another 5-0 record. But this time, they were without Mary Rose Roach, who was out with a concussion. Unlike in Lingerie Bowl 8, LA got off to a good start with a 14-0 halftime lead.
He was the starting quarterback in high school of the boys team. Yes. Quick throw, caught, touchdown. Audrey Letsko with her second touchdown catch of the game.
The Passion showed signs of life with a goal line stand immediately after the break. On the ensuing drive, Christy Bell connected on a 40-yard bomb to Whitney Piranish, which cut LA's lead in half. But this was as close as the Passion would get, as Salerno immediately connected with Danielle Harvey for a touchdown that would put the game out of reach for Philadelphia. Game MVP Amber Reed caught one more touchdown pass for good measure, and the Temptations' three-peat was complete.
The back-to-back-to-back Lingerie Bowl champion, Los Angeles Temptation, their head coach Dave Bizzub, started the year as my broadcast partner up here. Now is the head coach of the champs for the third time in a row. Ashley Salerno kneels down, and that is it. 28-6, Los Angeles with the win.
Incredible season for Los Angeles.
The Los Angeles Temptation would go on to be the only team in LFL history to win 3 consecutive championships. 2011-2012 would also mark LA's last championship, concluding the league's very first dynasty. On the field, the Temptation would remain competitive for years to come. Off the field, they would be the standard bearer as the league's flagship franchise for the remainder of the league's history. But a combination of age, multiple coaching changes, and the rise of another powerhouse would prevent LA from winning number 4. Next time on Dynasties, we'll look at the rise and fall of the Blissful Empire.